Good evening, I'm Jeff Lyons. It is Thursday night, August the 7th, time for the First Alert Weather Show at 9 o'clock. I'm glad you're here. If you have questions, comments, you can post them on our 14 News Facebook page, and we'll check those out about halfway through the program here this evening. Well, I guess you know what I'm going to say, right? It's going to be sunny, hot, and humid. We might see some patchy fog every morning, and there's a good chance we could see some showers next week. Otherwise, nothing's changing here. We are at a status quo, especially August. It's kind of notorious for being one of those months where the weather gets like this, kind of in a rut. Let's check out the fog potential for tomorrow morning. I'm not thinking we will see a lot of fog. However, we did have some scattered thunderstorms or showers that popped up this afternoon and got the ground good and wet, especially on the east side of Evansville out toward Newburgh and up here toward Chandler and Boonville. And then those showers came right across Henderson. So if we get fog, that's probably where a lot of it would form, where the ground got pretty wet late this afternoon. I don't know how much of the moisture dried up, but that would be the first place I would look for maybe a little patch or two of fog. Our dew points have come up a bit. Yesterday, I think at this time, they were around 68, 69. Now we're at 73. Of course, the temperature has pulled back, so it's not horribly oppressive out there, but it is more humid, and some of that may be as a result of the rain that we picked up this afternoon. We'll have to check in the comments, see if any of you actually got measurable rainfall. I noticed at my house, which is less than a mile from the station here, we had pretty decent rain, and there were puddles in the driveway. So, you know, it was very spotty where it fell. We had a little bit here at the station, but not as much. Temperature-wise, we are still in the 90s all the way out into next week. Our best chance for rain now, at least, looks like it would be somewhere here in Tuesday, Wednesday, maybe Thursday, if we get a cold front or some kind of system working through. This is the live radar pic at the moment. Nothing happening in any of our counties. There are still some lingering showers, though, across southern Illinois and the eastern edge here of Missouri from about St. Louis down to Cape Girardeau. That's actually left over from a squall line that started up this morning and kind of petered out there to the west. Looking ahead through next week, this would be all the way up to next Thursday, the GFS model is painting perhaps up to an inch of rain on average. It doesn't mean we're going to have exactly an inch, but it just indicates that, at least as of today, the potential is there to get some decent rainfall at some point next week. On the temperature map, again, we direct our attention here to the southwest. Phoenix, I think, hit another record today, 117. It's 114 now, 104 at Vegas. Here in the Midwest, especially in the plains, of course, it's, you know, the sun went down an hour later, however you want to look at it. They're closer to sunset, so it's still warmer in the plains than it is here. And we are starting to cool down now into the 70s. Pretty typical stuff for this time of the evening. Around the tri-state now, we show 74 at Huntingburg, Henderson at 74. Looks like our hottest spot is Grayville at 80 right now, and 79 there at Greenville and also Oakland City. We hit 90 today. That's the second day in a row that we've done that, and our low this morning right on the money there at 69. 68 is normal. But, you know, we are basically looking at a pretty typical first week of August. It could certainly be a lot worse. We'll put it that way. For the month now, we're about a half an inch behind on rainfall. August is one of those months that typically not a big rain generator. We'll get between 3.5 and sometimes up to 4 inches in August. The fly in the ointment with that theory is that sometimes we get tropical system, either in the Gulf or occasionally in the Atlantic, that will inject a lot of moisture in here. And so it's not out of the question to have, you know, a very wet period in August if a tropical system gets loose. For tomorrow, and that's not an issue, at least not right now. Tomorrow we have temperatures in the 90s again, as you probably guessed. Here's that squall line that formed earlier today, and then you see it kind of fizzled and rekindled down here along the Missouri border. Everything else quiet. We do have severe weather up there in the Dakotas and in eastern Montana. And that was, whoops, we don't need to go into space to look at these. Let's look at them this way. You see several severe thunderstorm warnings here, mainly for large hail. In fact, the hail returns showing up there as those blues on the composite radar picture where you have the highest reflectivity. All right, and they're actually at a moderate risk up there for severe weather for tonight. No issues here in the tri-state. It would surprise me very much if we saw much more than just an isolated shower or two tomorrow, and probably nothing on Saturday. That corridor of instability and better ingredients for severe weather will move into Wisconsin on Saturday, and that could bring a line of thunderstorms across Lake Michigan, or into Lake Michigan near Chicago on Saturday and Sunday. Our hour-by-hour forecast hasn't changed significantly. High pressure will move on out and bring in that southwesterly flow, so we have plenty of tropical air to work with. And there's that system I was mentioning for Sunday over northern Illinois. Next week, like I said, our best chance for rain probably Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and that kind of went by quick, but you saw a couple days there where we had at least a hint of rain showing up. Down to 70 degrees tonight with partly cloudy skies, and then we will hit 92 tomorrow, partly sunny again. The heat index probably around 98, 99 or so. Same thing through the weekend. Rain chances then popping in there Tuesday, Wednesday mainly, maybe Thursday too. Looks like we're going to warm up quite a bit too toward the middle of the month. That longer range outlook from the Climate Prediction Center showing us yet another round of heat and possibly moisture too. We've been in the sweet spot there for getting at least enough rain each month to keep things growing. Our pet pick tonight, this is Cookie, right up there on the camera lens there from Annalise Conaway. And Cookie is probably happy with this kind of weather as long as Cookie has some shade and a spot to stay. So we'll look at Cookie here. You don't care about the full sturgeon moon just yet. Well, I can't back it up, so you're going to look at the full sturgeon moon then instead of Cookie. All right, good. We've got some rain reports. That's what I was hoping for. So we've got Cheyenne Hammonds in there this evening. Hey, Cheyenne. William Raleigh, trace of rain at his house, which is over by Bossy Field. Seems like a 2-mile area around his house has been dry, yeah. Jeff Miller, quiet in Savaw. Adam Lewig's going to Mount Vernon in the morning to hunt some, to hurt some dirt. I get it, you're a car guy. I'm thinking hunt deer, hunt whatever. Yeah, I remember you trying to get to Tri-State Speedway. So yeah, if you're going to hurt dirt, it should be good weather for that if you want the dirt to be dusty and dry. Tim Wilkie says the west side got a thunderstorm with heavy rain right off Claremont. Yeah, that was the one that I was talking about. Libby Jenkins is in there. Hey, Libby. And all right, we got a lot of folks in there tonight. All right, Science Corner. Let's talk about this full moon coming up Saturday night. And that will be actually at 2:55 a.m. Saturday morning. The moon will be full. Now, it looks almost full right now. This is known as the full sturgeon moon, and that nickname actually comes from Native American tribes who fished for and caught sturgeon in the Great Lakes, the St. Lawrence River, and fresh bodies of water this time of the year when the July or August full moon appeared. Typically, sturgeon were active and more frequently caught, so you can check that out. They're very prehistoric looking fish. One thing about them is they can get really, really big, like 25 feet long. So that takes quite a few people to lug one of those out of the water. The full moon here for August, also known as the grain moon, the corn moon, and the lynx moon. The Celtic people call it that for whatever reason. And while we're on the subject of the moon, remember, it takes about 29.5 days for the moon to go all the way around the Earth once for its orbit. The Earth, of course, 365 to go around the sun, and the Earth makes one rotation every day, right? Every 24 hours. So because you have so many moving parts and the lunar cycle is about 29.5 days, the moon will appear in different orientations and different spots in the sky each night. I think I'm standing over the explanation here, but the moon moves east about 12 to 13 degrees each day in the sky, which is why it comes up about 30 to 40 minutes later each night. A lot depends on where it is maybe that's a little better. A lot depends on where it is in its orbit and where we are in our orbit. So you have all of these factors in here, and that's why the moon doesn't come up at the same time every night. Actually, if you round it, it's about 50 minutes later. Sometimes it can be as early as 45 minutes later, sometimes as late as 70. It's like everything else, a little hard to, it actually can be very precisely predicted using astronomical equations. And then we've talked about it before, but it's always worth mentioning again. The moon appears much larger when it's at its rising point there off the horizon. And this picture actually exaggerates that even more because of a telephoto lens, which reduces the depth of field. But the moon itself, when it's coming up off the horizon there, when it first rises, is in contrast to or in conjunction with things on the ground, like buildings and trees and streetlights and so forth. So it actually will look pretty big by comparison. But if you take your thumb at arm's length and put it up there, you'll notice that your thumb neatly covers the moon. And then what you want to do is wait until the moon has gone all the way up and do that same experiment again, where you hold your hand up and put your thumb over the moon. Now, when it's high in the sky, it will look smaller, but of course it's the same size. The moon doesn't do that, but it's relative to what's around it. And if you put your thumb up there, it will neatly cover the moon. And while we're looking up, we have the Perseid meteor showers coming up. That will actually, you can start to see them now. I mean, they're you know, it doesn't just happen on a particular date. The one thing that we have working against seeing the Perseids this year will be the full moon. When it's very bright, that glare tends to damp out the fainter meteors. You can shield, you know, you can put your thumb up there, I suppose, but you can shield your eye from the moon and try to see some meteors, or wait until either before or after the moon is up there. But you might be better off waiting, you know, a couple, 3 days after the peak, and you may actually see more. Your landmarks in the sky, you're going to look for Cassiopeia, which is the W, or it looks like a W. I think that one's always easier to spot than Perseus, but if you look for it, usually it's these three and that one are the ones that will stand out for you there in the sky. Anyhow, if you look in that direction, which will be northwest here in the tri-state, after midnight, you will see somewhere in the neighborhood of 40 to 50 an hour if you're extremely lucky. Typically, the actual number of meteors seen is much lower than the ones that are on there. But with that moon getting a little smaller and rising a little later each night, you might have a fighting chance to see some decent meteors. And this is actually some video that was captured a couple years ago by one of our viewers of a meteor coming down over North Green River Road, and you'll see it there in just a second. And this is how the Perseids are going to look. It'll just be basically a shooting star. And what we're looking at is actually a piece of space debris. Now, typically it's rock or maybe ice from something that blew up somewhere millions of years ago. And as these particles fly through space at speeds of up to 25 to 60,000 miles per hour, they're moving, right? And so when they encounter the atmosphere, our Earth's atmosphere, it causes friction, and they tend to catch on fire and burn up as they come through. Sometimes, though, if you have a big enough piece out there, big enough piece of debris, it'll actually cause a sonic boom because it's moving much faster than the speed of sound. And so occasionally you'll get a big pop as they come in. If the meteor makes it all the way to the ground and doesn't burn up completely, it's called a meteorite. And there are meteorites around the United States, so places where they have hit. But the biggest of all time to hit in the United States, and the sixth largest in the world, happened a long time ago, back about 13,000 years ago. And geologists have kind of studied this. This is called the Willamette meteorite, and it actually made impact on the Canadian-Montana border. At least that is the estimate of where it started. So you're probably wondering, well, why does it have the name Willamette, which is in Oregon? Well, there's a good answer to that, and it stems from geology. So what was going on 13,000 years ago, you ask? Well, we had the Ice Age. And so as the glaciers from the north expanded, you remember, and they forced all the rock and everything southward, The meteor got caught up in it. Man, this is a big meteor, you know, weighs a lot. But nonetheless, the glacier won out. And then there was a series of floods that happened as the glacier retreated and melted. And so we had these big flooding events. Anyway, the combined action of the glaciers and the floods eventually deposited the Willamette meteorite near the Willamette Valley here in western Oregon. And that is where the meteorite was discovered by, of course, native tribes way back when, and they looked at it as a sacred object. They knew it wasn't like the other rocks around, and later then with science, we figured out that it came from outer space. An industrialist then claimed it as his own. There was a big fracas, and it wound up in a museum in New York. So that's what happened to the meteorite. And I don't think we're going to have anything like that with the Perseids, but, you know, little context never hurts. All right, I will look at your questions one more time here. We have no more. Usually my explanation of the Willamette meteorite puts everybody right out. We still got some folks in the room here tonight. All right, well, that's all I have for you this evening. Michael Fecka will be in here tomorrow night. Or actually, no, it'll be Arden Gregory will be in here tomorrow night for me. And then the two of them will be splitting my shift. I'll be away next week. So I appreciate you watching here tonight. Stay safe, and thanks for watching. We'll see you in a week.